Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Single Page Stories with your host, me, Sweet Danger Zach. That's right, Single Page Stories. You may have forgotten about it. I may have forgotten about it. But thanks to the encouragement of one loyal listener, I was reminded that I am not just screaming into the void, that there is some appreciation for this. And so I was inspired to do another, which I had already been writing another piece with the intention of uploading, and I never did. I wrote it in the middle of winter, in the dead of winter, in the darkness of winter, and it's kind of a dark piece. And since I didn't upload it, and now it's spring and it's lovely outside, I thought a nice spring day could be good to recite this one on, because that can help mitigate some of the darkness, you know. It can be difficult to contend with the darker elements of ourselves, and having a bit of sunshine and a reminder that the sun is around the corner can be better than simply wallowing in the darkness while still acknowledging it. This one's called I Peaked in First Grade. I peaked in first grade. It's all been downhill since then. Does that mean now is the low point? Yeah, thanks for asking. I've been cold for a month because I'm afraid of my electricity bill, though last week some guy offered me $1,200 to fuck me in the ass for 2 hours, and I said no, so who can I blame but myself? Well, actually I said yes, but I stopped responding when he was insistent I suck his dick too. It's not really the action so much as the being vulnerable with someone whose agenda is clearly getting off on pushing your boundaries and making you uncomfortable. It's a special kind of darkness in those people. People who've given up on joy. I didn't know people like that in first grade. I knew people who laughed a lot because I made them laugh. They liked me then because I said what I thought. Kids like that, because that's before they know that saying what you think can get you killed in the wrong company, or, more realistically, just lose you a lot of money. Sucking up to authority hadn't quite been figured out yet. Dana Capaldi liked me, and if Dana Capaldi likes you, you're golden. You've got it made. I used to stare at her across the classroom and wonder why I couldn't look away. Seemed like a strange thing to be doing given how much time myself and my male cohorts dedicated to mocking girls, cooties and whatnot. She eventually went on to become the prom queen, but that was years into my decline, high school, at the point when I was barely an entity. And I'm not done romanticizing my peak yet. Philip Quinn liked me. He works for Northrop Grumman now, making more money than I can comprehend, designing the tools to vaporize Syrian villagers 6% more efficiently. I'd be doing something similar if I had embraced the guidance of my teachers, but I was still blissfully unaware of that side of humanity back then. Back when I was showing Ben Logan how to beat Mega Man X. I showed him where you find all the hearts in the E-tanks. He'd never done it, apparently. I was an elite gamer by first grade standards. And that's still at the age when kids unabashedly like things, before they learn about what's cool and what's lame and fashion themselves accordingly, despite their real interests, their real selves. Things like video games became lame and nerdy by junior high, but I never caught on to that thinking. I didn't understand what everyone else was doing. In first grade, you can like video games or basketball or hamsters, and it doesn't mean anything about your identity. Doesn't make people assume they know who you vote for or who you like to have sex with. It's just an interest. Back before interests became egos. I had a lot of interests besides Mega Man, Calvin and Hobbes, drawing, and those were the Jordan years growing up in Chicagoland, so you'd better believe basketball. My jersey number was 7, lucky number 7, and I played for the Razorbacks, whatever those are. I didn't shoot great, but I got a lot of rebounds. The Rodman of the Razorbacks, they called me. I never did go on to drive a convertible off a cliff, but I suppose there's still time for that, if I can recover from this hole. Teachers mostly didn't like me. The ones that did really did, though. It was hit or miss. Love or hate. I was a polarizing figure. One of them told my mom I was an enigma, apparently, which is strange to me. The enigma to me was everybody else. The enigma to me was how there was an authority figure that felt completely entitled to steal half my time from me against my will, and then send me home with homework to steal the rest of it. The enigma to me is that anyone else was willing to cooperate with that, and at the same time as we're being taught to lionize the great protest movements of the past. God really does enjoy irony. Eventually you learn through your straight A, pride of the family brother, that the ones doing well are doing well because they're cheating, and it makes you even angrier. You were on my side this whole time. You agreed with me. You knew it was bullshit, and you went along with it because you wanted the pat on the head. You wanted the prize and the good job and the prestige, and you chose that, instead of sticking up for me. I didn't want to contend with betrayal. I wanted to contend with coloring with my markers that I got for Christmas or my birthday. I don't recall which. I wonder what I drew back then. I don't remember. I know I had a Gundam mech type phase, but that was because I was imitating Mikey Hansen, which would have been 5th grade or so, way past my prime. Family. That's another thing that's faded with time. Well, maybe more the consequences of actions than just time. Family functions were pretty frequent back then. I was terrified of Bubba. That's what the Serbs call Grandma. She used to like to bounce me on her knee, but I didn't want any part of that. Something about her scared the shit out of me. And I learned as an adult that no one else in the family really likes her either. It's funny how kids can just intuit that stuff that adults have to spend so much time and energy rationalizing. The rest of the family was nice. Uncle would roast a pig, and the kids would chase a soccer ball around the yard or at the park, and all the adults would smoke, and Dad would enjoy the company of his family, and Mom would be utterly miserable amongst a bunch of perfectly decent people. They'd circle up and hold hands and dance to Balkan accordion music, and they'd invite us to join, and we wouldn't really partake because we always felt a little weird and different and like we didn't quite belong. But I think it was less them ostracizing us and more Mom choosing to be ostracized. They spoke Serbian together, and Dad never taught us. When he got involved with Mom, Bubba went to a witch doctor and had a hex put on their relationship because she wasn't Serbian. So maybe she had a reason to feel uncomfortable, but that was Bubba. I don't think the rest of them were really that way. They had a lot of kids, so there were hordes of us. Stevo, Milos, Pato, Tina, Mina, Alex, Natasha, Natalia, Marco, Milica. That's about half the cousins we could expect at any given birthday party, and their parents, and a couple additional friends. The kids at school would ask me what I did over the weekend, and my answer at the time probably had more to do with Pokemon than my family. At the time, I didn't realize that 50 family member gatherings were anything special. I got good grades then, too. I read very well, and my teachers would comment on it, and I remember telling them, I read a lot in my video games, and I remember the utter look of contempt they'd have hearing that, and the way they'd always tell me with various phrasing that no, that can't be it. There's nothing to be learned from that nonsense. Which was really their way of saying, you should only be learning in ways that I approve of. That was before I really grasped their egos, the egos of any petty authority figures. Now I know why they say, ignorance is bliss. There are burdens to knowing, and expectation is the precursor of anxiety. I was dumb, and I was happy. If I'm observing through rose-tinted lenses, as we're susceptible to doing. I didn't peak in 1st grade. I was constantly being pushed around by so-called adults with emotional regulation issues. I had no photography skills whatsoever, and I hadn't kissed a girl, but I did have something. I had the unapologetic interest of my peers. I had company that hadn't been taught yet who and what it's in their best interest to like. I had an honest crowd, and that's all a little boy can ask for. A 34-year-old little boy.